Okay, is Jim Burke,
Yes, he is. He's here.
Breeza Brown,
Here.
Deb Wellams,
Here.
Laura Mudge,
Here.
okay, we'll have
And
4.
Lisa Morales is
And
here.
Lisa.
Oh,
Lisa.
Lisa Morales? I'm sorry, I didn't know you were here.
I'm here.
Sorry, Lisa.
That's okay.
I heard everyone but you. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
Well, now I know we're all here.
It was a test. Good job.
Okay. 6:05.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So it sounds like no one from the public called in.
Let me make sure. Maudie, can you verify that that's true? Correct. Okay. Yep. No public comments.
All right. Well, that's a bummer. So we'll just go down to the first thing on the agenda and go ahead and approve the board meeting minutes, the consent agenda from March 10th. Is there a second?
Oh, yeah, I'll second. Did somebody? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make the motion. If Lisa will second. So all those in favor to approve the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All opposed? Any opposed? Doesn't sound like it. Okay, so approve the consent agenda of the March 10th minutes. So this is Deb Willem speaking. So I thought it would just be nice in light of everything going on with COVID-19 precautions across the state to have a quick board meeting to try to give the public an opportunity to provide us any concerns or voice any, I guess, opinions on anything that's going on, and to just get in front of the public, our stakeholders, and let them know the precautions that team has taken. So first one is to thank Laura Mudge for everything that you've been doing, keeping the school moving and providing education to all of our students during this very difficult time. So we are following all the government guidelines, restrictions, and protocols as we maneuver through this. So that's a lot of what Laura's going to cover when we get over to her report. And one thing that Laura and I did talk about is graduation, of course, is coming up in just a few weeks. We are continuing to assess that situation. We do intend on having a ceremony if at all possible. There's a very the reality is we may have to postpone it. Worst case is it would be canceled altogether, but we feel it's very important to our students to have that event, and we're going to do whatever we can to do that, but it may, of course, have to be postponed. So that's what I have. So I'll bring it back over to Laura for your report.
Okay. I have tried to update you all throughout the process. Because we are a non-classroom based school already, it really only changed a few things. Well, you know, I mean, everyone's worlds have been upturned, but as far as work for students, I'm going to review a few things that we've done. And but before we start, I'm just going to kind of follow. I sent you all my report. The first thing that's happened since our meeting 1 month ago is we were not approved by Quiama for our renewal of our original charter. So the few students that are enrolled there will be transferred to our Orchid Santa Maria charter, and our next focus is on getting our San Luis Obispo Learning Center its own charter. So the process for that after the law changed is we can either get support from the school district that our San Luis Obispo Learning Center is located in, or get a separate charter. So we'll be working on that next. Do you have any questions about the Quiama charter?
I do not. Thank you, Laura, for that update. I appreciate that.
Okay. All right, so COVID-19, as you all know, our facilities have been closed since March 16th, but we continue to operate and we have not closed operationally. All of our meetings are being held remotely through Google Hangouts instead of in person, obviously. And all of our classes, our tutors, everything else has been done remotely. And that's going really well. We did have some hiccups at first because students weren't used to logging in and meet with the tutors. They were used to just coming to our facilities. So Laurel worked really hard to get it so the process worked more smoothly. So that has been positive. Every morning, the entire staff meets for updates, trainings, and it's been really good to bring our entire team together. A lot of times, different learning centers feel a little closed off from each other because they're not interacting on a daily basis. So this has kind of brought our whole team together, and it's been very positive and beneficial for all of us. I think the student meetings have been beneficial for students as well. So they're not feeling so isolated and they still have kind of a sense of normalcy. They still have work to complete and classes to attend and tutoring sessions to go to. I am going to have Laurel talk a little bit about, since you're all on the phone, she can't show you, she was going to show you, but I'm going to have her speak a little bit about the resources she is putting together that we're going to post online that will just be additional support for our families and students. I did want to touch on our funding. I sent you all an email today. I forwarded you an email that I sent to the CDE based on when P2 attendance ends. So I've been in contact with Eric Premack and CCSA about this. And so I just wanted to update you on that. So normally our attendance reporting period ends on the last date prior to April 15th that aligns with our school calendar. For us, it was April 9th of this year. And this year, all the schools that closed were told they would be held harmless to the February 28th date that was set by the state. And in all reality, that February 28th date is the last date, just like April 15th would have been the last reporting date, but you have to report whenever your period, your monthly period ends prior to that date. So for us, that meant February 7th. The email I sent you broke everything out into how much that 2 months difference mean for a school like ours, a school that continually increases enrollment. So original projections was about 400,000 total, but then when we finally went in and did the actuals, it was about $330,000. So Eric is still working on that. The CDE staff is working on it. We do have a team trying to help allow us to just, since we didn't close, allow us to certify P2 at our normal date, but we're not sure yet what that will be. Now, if we aren't able to certify at P2, that could mean we are having to dip into our reserves even further than we originally anticipated, which would be not optimal for us, obviously. And then that takes us into funding for next year. So I don't know if you all had a chance to read my report, but the economy and school revenue projections for next year are not looking good. Any reserves the state had are currently being used, obviously. We could see a decrease in funding next year of up to 10%, and then could be more. We're thinking 10% is probably the greatest decrease we might see for next year, but we're going to still be listening in to find out what it actually will be. But I think our budgets should probably rely on at least estimates up to 10% less per ADA than what we're currently seeing and receiving. So a lot of times when this situation happens, like it did in 2008, schools really had to struggle to keep themselves afloat. So there's a couple things we might need to look at in the future, depending on how bad things really get, but just things for us to look for. There's lines of credit that a school can open, or selling receivables like we did the first couple years. Obviously, we don't want to get back into that, but it's something we need to probably start talking about in June once we see how our budget's going to look for next year. So I just kind of wanted to put that on the forefront of your brains before we actually start looking into our budget for next year. So do you have any questions about that? Anyone?
No.
Okay. I don't hear any questions, so I'll move on. Then just the other things
Hey,
I put in here really, yeah.
Sorry, Laura, this is Deb. I was wondering if we could take an action, maybe, because I was just looking ahead to our June, to put that on a June budget, or sorry, a June agenda item. Maybe we form an ad hoc committee to look over our 2020-2021 budget more closely. Right, so yeah, so one of the June meetings after the budgets get released, we should look at that.
Okay, sounds good. So you want the ad hoc committee formed now, or you want it formed for the June? I guess I didn't quite understand the timeline for what.
Well, when will we know what our budget is? Like, when will we know what funds are released to us?
Well, unfortunately, it won't be solid. Usually it may have a budget revise. At this point, with all that is going on and with taxes being, you know, they're not even finalized for people. And I mean, the dates changed from April to, I guess, June now. So we'll probably have an initial understanding before we have to adopt our budget, but that is going to change after, you know.
Okay, then let's put it on one of the June agendas to discuss it and determine at that point if we should form an ad hoc committee to look at it more closely. Okay, thank you.
Well, I definitely, I would advise that, because I think this is something that's going to be changing and evolving over the year as the state budget gets updated, and as that happens and they update the schools, I mean, then schools should update their budget reflecting whatever changes are made. So yeah.
Thank you.
We'll add that to the next meeting. Okay, so there's a couple other considerations we probably have coming up. As Deb discussed, graduation, we're still obviously unsure of how that will look. We want to have live graduation. That's what our families and students would really like. And so we'll just kind of have to keep discussing that as time goes on. Grading is an issue as well. Many schools are trying to decide what's best for how we actually grade final grades for students. We should be able just to keep going as we have, but we're going to have to kind of see as this progresses if students seem to be faltering at all. Right now, things look pretty good, but that's something else that is a consideration, I think, for us to look into. LCAPs are probably going to be suspended. I know that was, we have 2 meetings in June, one for our public hearing and one for our actual adoption of the LCAP. At this point, it looks like we are not going to be producing the entire LCAP as we normally do, but there might be something we still have to do in lieu of a normal LCAP. But at this point, we have not gotten confirmation of what that will look like. And then our 2021 calendar, I think we need to keep on top of as well. At this point, you know, we have no way to predict what is going to happen throughout our country and the world over the next few months. So there has been discussion of a second spike possibly happening, of schools having to open later. We don't know, but it is something for us to think about in the next few months. So that's really all I had. I kind of would like Laurel to talk a little bit about, if you don't mind, what she's putting together. And so Laurel, go ahead.
So no one can see right now, right? You guys are all.
No one can see, yeah, so we can't really share your screen.
So I'll send you guys a link then after this. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of a Padlet, but it is kind of like a message board or a bulletin board where you can upload different topics, and they can be documents, websites. So what we've been working on creating is one for supports for families and students. So it has different columns like mental health sources, curriculum, and it's all based, most of it is support for students right now as we're going through COVID. So I've been working with, counselors, with curriculum, with Laura, with everyone to just get all the resources we can up there so that we have one link that we can just put on our website, but then also send out to families as needed with a bunch of resources. So I'll go ahead and email that to you guys right now. It isn't finished. And right now, if I email it to you, you can actually add content, but once we're done and have all the content we want on there, then it will be view only. So it is a collaborative site. So if I wanted to use it for something like collaborating on any sort of topic, I could share it with whoever I wanted to collaborate with, and they could put their resources up there also. Any questions about that?
No.
That sounds like really neat. Thank you for bringing us up to speed on it.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and email it to you guys after the meeting, and that you can check it out. And if you have questions after or anything you think that you would like to add to it, you can do that, or I can do it for you if you send me the information.
Thank you.
Okay, I think
So
that's
Laura,
all
that's
for my
your,
report.
you're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless
So we'll move
anyone has
over.
questions, go ahead.
No, you're right, Laura. Does anyone have any follow-up questions for Laura? COVID-19 things or in general? I know she covered several different topics, all good stuff. Okay, silence is a
Yeah, I
good
guess the
sign.
CDE, our CDE team is highlighting us tomorrow because we're really proud of all we're doing. So you all should feel proud that you have a school that is state board authorized and still operating. It's pretty close to normal.
That is really great news. Where are they highlighting it?
Just at a CDE meeting that they're having tomorrow. So I'm not exactly sure who all will be there, but they just contacted me to let me know that they would be highlighting and asked me to send some information about what we're doing, what's changed, and just some basic information like that.
That's good. Well, thank you, again, for all of the work that you're doing, keeping things moving and trying to keep things as transparent to the students so that, obviously their education comes first, and hopefully the teachers as well are able to have been able to transition from doing all of this at home. So I appreciate your leadership and maneuvering through all these changes. All right, so on to new business. The one item we have is approval of a contract with Leadership Associates. So we are looking to contract out with a company to help us as we maneuver through the renewing the executive director position for next year. These folks will help us receive input from all of the stakeholders on the roles and responsibilities of the ED and CEO position, and they'll help us formally form a job description and provide a little more formality to the process than maybe what we've had before, and put some rigor in it as the school continues to grow. We realize that's been a little bit of a gap, and so we can kind of, as I mentioned, put some formality around the process and go through it with some consultants and some experts. I know that would be helpful to get some outside consulting input. So I did send that contract over to the board members. Are there any questions about that document or about the process?
Well, what's the cost involved here?
So it's initially, if we stick with the plan and go through everything, the total cost is about $20,000, and it starts with a $10,000 to get us started and kick off the process.
And what's our benefit on that?
It's going through and formally defining the roles and responsibilities for the executive director and the CEO and getting input in from all of our stakeholders. They will reach out to all of the board members, to our teachers, staff members, and even parents if we'd like to formally go through and review what are the skills and the characteristics and better defining, helping define the future of the school and getting that stakeholder input.
And where did this come from? What's the idea behind it?
Well, Laura's contract expires in June, and so we have to go through that process to renew that contract, or to, if the case may be, select an executive director. We have to go through that process of filling that position. So this will help us formally go through that process.
After reading, this is Parisa, by the way.
That's going to cost us 20 grand?
Correct.
I'm not sure I understand that investment. We seem to have been doing pretty well over these last years.
This is Parisa. After reading through the document that Deb sent over, I'm actually pretty impressed by this company. It basically seems like they would give a comprehensive scope as to kind of how the future looks for our school, knowing how things have gone in the past and what the future holds. What we need to be looking for, and what kind of qualities we need to be making sure that we uphold on our end with our leadership team. And I think they do a really good job of explaining all that and saying how they'll go through a very systemized step-by-step process to ensure that we make sure we're taking all those boxes.
It seems like a significant amount of money to invest in a school that has been as successful as we've. I'm not quite sure I understand what it is we're looking for there.
Well, we don't have a process. We've never gone through this process. I believe that this is part of the growth of the school, is establishing.
From who decides that?
Well, we do as the board.
The school board. Okay, so
Yeah.
So the school board's going to be involved in the decision on whether we're going to actually invest in this situation, right?
Absolutely, yes. We're going to vote on if we're going to accept this contract and move forward with this proposal.
On page 8, it details the 9 phases of the contract, and it actually details how they're interacting with the board and what kind of communication goes on there. And it goes on in page 10 to detail all the communication. So it was impressive to me.
I believe that this is part of our natural progression for the school to grow and to formalize this process that we've never really had in the past.
No, I don't know that we've ever needed it in the past. We've seemed to have been pretty successful.
I think that's true. I don't think anyone is disputing the success of the school and how well we've done.
Well, we're deciding to drop 20 grand on this. When I don't see any kind of a worry about it. That's $20,000. That's a lot of money.
I think it's a necessary thing to go through if we want to improve as a school. It's true that we haven't been performing strategy.
Has everybody on the board decided that
but I think it's necessary to go forward with it if we want to improve.
Who else thinks it's necessary?
Are you asking for a vote, Jim?
Well, I want to know. I mean, is the entire board behind this? I mean, I don't know about it.
It was, I think it was sent out to everybody.
Hmm. And everybody's okay with it?
Well, so this sparked from the contract is expiring, and when I reached out to our law firm who puts together that contract, they recommended this firm to help us go through that process.
What's their attachment to that firm?
None. They had none. They did a search for our area, and they have no attachment to them. It was just recommendations from similar charter schools and who is in the industry and who does this type of executive search and process, and who does this formally for a living. In other schools, you might have a board who is it's more of a full-time job for them, or it takes on a larger part of that process. Since we have most of the board members aren't in the education field, this isn't a full-time commitment to us. We're committed to the school, but we have outside, other responsibilities as well. So we wanted to enlist the services of a consulting firm that can help us go through that process and who has expertise in this field, who understands that this industry better and can help us make sure that we've got the best candidate and process going forward, and that we're considering the input of all of our constituents. We have tried for several months as a board to get out into the schools and to talk to the teachers, and we've found it's been very difficult to figure out how to do that, to be in compliance with the Brown Act. As a board, we're limited to how we can interact with our teachers and how we can even interact with each other and be compliant to the Brown Act. So by using this consulting company, it not only frees up our time, it provides us the expertise of a firm who does this for a living, who does this full time, and it allows them the flexibility to talk to everybody as a consulting firm. They're not limited by Brown Act restrictions as we are.
Yeah, I've had some personal encounters with the Brown Act.
Encounters with the Brown Act?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A number of years ago.
Right, and it's hard for us to have a committee, and obviously so this allows us to a firm who can go and talk to the teachers, who can talk to the parents, who can pull in that information for us and can provide recommendations for us. We will get all the information. They're going to provide us recommendations, and then as a board, we will decide what to do with those recommendations.
Yeah,
I think it's necessary to put some formality around the process and making sure that we're getting input, again, across the entire school.
Yeah, I get it. It just seems to me we've done pretty well since, what was it, like 2012 or something like that.
Yeah.
We've done well. So we're going to drop 20 grand on having somebody tell us, yeah, you guys have done well.
I think that things that we've talked about before is, does it make, is the structure, should we consider, and it just provides us an outside consultant to come in and help us with this process and making sure that things like Laura and I have talked about, should she get an executive, should she get a deputy director, what should fall under the ED and the CEO as opposed to other staff members, all of that, we could use some outside consultants with to make sure that we are structured the best way for the school and to free up her time to be able to focus strategically to help the school move forward. So there's a lot that can come out of it.
I get it.
Okay. Any other questions about the contract?
I have one last input/question, and that is about the cost. It does seem a bit high at $20,000 or $21,000 for the service, even though I love what they're proposing. Is there maybe a more cost-effective way that we could have the same kind of outcome, either through leveraging personal connections or LinkedIn, something like that? Well, I don't think that that's, I think that that's really good to consider. I think that that is true. It would be nice to find a less costly way to accomplish this. I know as a board, we have all talked about getting more board members, and we have struggled to just get more people in the community and to join the board. And there aren't as rigorous of requirements for that position. I believe that the board needs some outside help to help us move through this process. And we're with a group that has some expertise. Now, if the board feels that they're well enough connected in the community and in the education process, and that they can go through this process and dedicate the time to go talk to the teachers and our directors of the centers and some of the parents and help us as we maneuver through this process, then we can talk about that plan. But considering how her contract is up in June, we'd like to get this resolved swiftly, and this company can also help us meet our timing requirements.
Yeah, I understand. That all makes sense. Considering all that, I agree with you. And maybe, I don't know if it's possible to negotiate with the Leadership Associates firm on the rate, because if this is their first proposal, I'm not sure if they would accept a negotiation process, but that would be my only suggestion moving forward.
I just always have found it. I mean, I was a teacher for 40 years, and I always found it interesting how many non-educators, non-teachers ran school districts. It was always kind of I found myself in front of school boards a lot, trying to explain to them what was going on, and now we're talking about dropping some money on a. I'm not sure what they're going to actually study about us. I mean, it seems to me we've had a pretty successful history, and as an educator, I want to see it from a teacher's viewpoint rather than a business person's viewpoint. You know, I don't know. Am I making sense?
I agree, and that's why I want to use these consultants to help us with that, because I don't have a background in education, but this company does. That's what they do. They do this just for schools.
They're teachers? They're teachers?
They're former teachers. No, these are not business people. This consultant firm is only in education.
Okay.
And they're local, and they understand. They've been teachers and superintendents,
Okay.
et cetera.
Okay.
One of the key consultants that we'll be using has a PhD in education.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we looked at this company for exactly those reasons, Jim. They have the knowledge and expertise in this field that I don't, and to help us go through that process.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, well, I make a motion that we approve this contract and enter into this relationship with Leadership Associates, as we've discussed.
How many people? How many of the board members are here now tonight?
4. There's 4 board members on the call.
Is that all of us? 4? Is there only 4?
Hannah is the 5th.
Wow.
Okay,
I'm not sure what to say about this.
Well, I'll second.
Okay, so I made the motion, Parisa seconded. Do we want to
Lisa.
take it to, sorry, Lisa seconded. Thank you for identifying. We're starting all on the same after a little while. So we could take it to a vote then to,
There's four of us?
there's four of us, yes. All right, so all those in favor to adopt the contract from Leadership Associates? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
No.
All those opposed, Jim is a no, okay. Lisa, is there a requirement, or sorry, Summer, do you know, is there a requirement for a quorum, still 3 out of 5? Or we
I
don't
believe
need a
so.
simple majority, yeah.
No, I believe it passes.
Okay, so it passes with a simple majority. Jim, maybe you and I can talk offline and address any concerns you have about the contract.
Sure. I'm only laughing at myself.
Okay.
It's just, all the years I taught, I was just always in front of the school board, trying to get them to understand that it was always about kids. It was just about kids. That's what I did. That's what I loved about it, and seemed to be I was in a struggle for all of those years with money and all that stuff. I mean, just
Yeah.
I loved the job that I did so much, and loved working with kids. So it's hard for me to see it's hard for me to appreciate an outside organization that's going to come in, and unless they're filled with old educators. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Sure.
anyway,
I can see where your reluctancy is.
it's not that I'm opposed to this. It's just that I just, it's an old struggle.
That's fair. The nice thing about this is a
60s radical,
Sure. And this is a consulting firm that's a consultant for us. They work for us. They're going to provide their recommendations, and ultimately it's up to us to review them and decide what to do for it. So they're just going to help us go through this process and put some formality around it, and I think help us all as a board grow stronger, and as a school as well.
Okay.
I think it's important for all of us to continue to seek the input from, again, all of our stakeholders, the teachers and the staff, and this is one way that we can do that more.
I think you're absolutely right. I do.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. So that, I believe that is the last item on our agenda. So with that, we can adjourn at 6:43 is what I have.
Yes.
And thank you. And we've got our next meeting. Laura luckily has it in her her board package there. So June 2nd is officially our next meeting. We will continue to assess the situation with the COVID-19 restrictions and decide how that goes. And we might meet before that to discuss graduation or anything like that. So hopefully this phone call meeting works for folks. Feel free to email me or Laura directly if you have any recommendations or concerns about conducting the meeting over the phone like this. I do appreciate everyone's help maneuvering through this. This is the first time, obviously, we've done anything other than an in-person meeting. So I appreciate your help.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Good night.